And so I think there's something beyond the personalization, the AI, the stuff that we always talk about, of bringing fellow fans into it and bringing that excitement that I'm seeing, or maybe getting to see the tears of the opponent when they're not doing well. I think that adds an extra layer of excitement to things that makes me want to watch more, which will inherently make me want to bet more.
You're listening to 15M Mastering, a show that empowers you with insights from the leading iGaming experts to enhance your personal or business performance. The show is brought to you by tech-driven affiliate and media company Already Media, and supported by the AI-powered data analytics platform Blask. Yo Investments, a fund manager investing in outstanding people who are disrupting the iGaming, fintech, and crypto industries. And BC Game, the multi-award-winning crypto casino with a player-centric approach. Hey everyone, and welcome back to 15M Mastery. Today we are joined by Mark Phillips, CEO and founder of both Are You Watching This and MetaBet. Mark is a pioneering force in merging sports media with betting technology through real-time data integration. In this episode, we will explore how technology is transforming the way fans engage with live sports and betting. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
So your company, Are You Watching This, tracks excitement levels in real-life sports all over the world, as far as I understood. What makes a moment truly epic in your algorithm?
Oh, it's a great question. I worked with Telstra. They're an Australian telco a bunch of years back, and I had to learn new sports. So I grew up in the States. I'm a Brooklyn, New York native, but I had to figure out how to quantify this excitement for cricket, rugby, Australian rules football, and sports that I never really grew up watching or knew how it worked. And so I realized as I started learning these new sports, when I started yelling at the ref through the TV, that's when I understood it. And that's really how you encapsulate what an exciting game is. It's the one that makes you jump out of your seat, the one that has you yelling, the one that has you texting your friend, literally, are you watching this? There's something unique about the last DVR resistant genre on TV. If you don't watch it live, the value decays. And so finding anything that is rare, that is historic, anything that makes your heart race is what we try to capture through analytics. So capturing something so subjective in an objective way has been a really fun challenge.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit more about the sports betting side of things. What does a great integration of betting content into sports broadcast look like?
For me, Fandom is wagering emotion. If you go to a ticker tape parade or any sort of championship parade, I guarantee you the fans that are bawling their eyes out in joy have bawled their eyes out in sadness years before when they came up short. And so this ability to sort of put your heart on the table allows you to have so much more joy when your team wins. I think sports betting is an accelerant to that. It adds lighter fuel to that fire. I hate the Cleveland Browns, not because they've done anything wrong, but because they had a stupid penalty in a game 4 years ago that cost me to lose my bet. It didn't change the outcome of the game, but I will never forgive them for that. And I have no other connection to Cleveland or Ohio or the Browns specifically. And so for me, anytime you're able to build on what makes watching sports fun, I think often, especially in the US market, we get really heavy into statistics. We get really heavy into, even American style odds of minus 110 and plus 250. I was a computer science major. I still have to get out a calculator to figure out what my payout is on some of these bets. And so I think the best integrations are one that are obviously seamless and contextual, but the ones that build on the general emotion that comes from a game, where if someone's about to do something historic, yes, you show a bet. But also, if someone's struggling, that redemption arc is also really, really interesting. And so if we focus more, I think, on the stories, on the connections, on the similarities, on the guy that grew up in your same hometown, I think that's when the integrations get the most exciting.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. But at the same time, it feels like many sports networks, they still hesitate to fully embrace betting content. And what kind of resistance do you face?
I live in Austin, Texas, and there's still hours of the day where we can't buy alcohol. I think that there's a puritanical undercurrent with a lot of things. And honestly, growing up, I was a 70s baby. And, even being that young, gambling was really seen as something that's shady and you have to be smoking cigars and wearing, tank tops and be a shady character to bet. And so I think that there's still a big cultural impact, again, looking specifically at the States, where we're still getting comfortable with it. And I always compare it to sort of, alcohol, where it takes a while. We're 80 years out from prohibition in the States and things are normalized, but, there are guardrails. There are guardrails that are important in the States that we don't have yet. We need to have a federal framework. I think it's wild that you can cross a border and responsible gaming laws just change. And so I think that a lot of folks in media are hesitant because I think they see it as well. I personally think it's wild that you can still wager with a credit card. That, to me, feels like a self-owned, a self-fail by a lot of sportsbook that's allowed. And so I think folks are being cautious. We're only a few years in. I think there's a lot more to grow and a lot more to go. I think they'll get there, but I think once we see a federal framework and more guardrails, I think media companies will be more comfortable.
I really like your example with like alcohol or other so-called vice industries, because if you think about Europe or other more, I'd say, mature sports betting and gambling markets, they are so far ahead of the US market, and it feels like some of the regulatory frameworks and the changes which are happening in the US these days, they're really kind of like a delayed effect of what was going on in Europe or either UK. So, and what I see happening a lot is like major networks and sportsbook, they're really partnering up, right? And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on like what makes these partnerships succeed or fail.
It's a great question. I want to circle back a little bit to the last one though before I answer that one. Is without getting. I'm wearing a tie, so I don't want to get too militant at the moment. But I think that I think it's very American to not look at our peers who have solved a lot of the problems we're going to run into. This sort of we're the discoverers. No one's done sports gambling before, and we've seen so many studies in Australia, in the UK, about problem bettors and the impacts that sort of drive them even more. And so I think that there are opportunities to learn from people who have been there before, to learn from the unbelievably deep research that has been performed, to understand the right ways and the wrong ways to do things. And I think as these sort of media companies start to link up with sportsbooks, we kind of called that initial batch in the States rookie contracts. Everyone was just excited. You had SB Nation teaming up with DraftKings. You had CBS teaming up with William Hill, now Caesars, NBC and PointsBet. And now those rookie contracts are kind of ending and everyone's trying to think, okay, what do I do now? And some of them worked well. I love the partnership between SB Nation and DraftKings. But then you look at someone like a Penn Entertainment and Barstool that just never took off. Now you look at Penn Entertainment and ESPN Bet, and it's underperforming. And so I think the next step for a lot of folks is getting beyond that rookie contract of just, hey, here's a bunch of money, we'll figure out conversion down the line, into, I think, is something more intimate, for lack of a better word, something that is more integrated. And if you look at ESPN Bet and Penn, that's the issue. The brand is great. The content is great. The daily active users is great. And they still can't crack 10%. For me, in my very, very biased view of the way sports could be, so often we're focused on the sharps, on that top edge of the bell curve, where folks already know what a minus 110 is. They know the middle name of the backup center sitting on the bench. But what we try to focus on in Are You Watching This and Our Gambling, Our MetaBet, is tapping into that real time, tapping into, if I could send you an alert, Dimitri, that says LeBron James has 60 points through three quarters. Do you want to pay 99 cents to watch the finish? Or do you want to place a wager on if he'll beat Kobe's 81-point record? Place a wager, we'll let you watch for free. That sort of hook, ESPN can do. Anyone can do. But we stay focused on these minus 110s and plus 250s and in all these micro bets. And some micro bets are great. But if you give me 2,000 ways to bet on Spurs Mavericks, that's not going to get me to watch the game. Because if we look at, if we imagine, let's say Netflix, the onboarding process for Netflix is choose a couple movies you like. How about this? How about this? How about this? And it evolves and it changes. If I install ESPN or CBS Sports or any of those apps, the first question is, okay, who are you a fan of? As if fandom is binary. I love the Yankees. I'm tortured by the Knicks. I enjoy Wrexham, and I love watching Steph Curry. But all of those fandoms is very, very different. And so I think if we can get to a spot where media companies are dialing into that curation and personalization, and sportsbooks come along for the ride and understand that when I get to your website, it looks like a Google spreadsheet or a math test and not something that really engages me into betting. If we can get there, I think those partnerships get more interesting, sports betting gets more interesting, and we start to really target the middle of the bell curve.
I absolutely love what you just said. And I think your point about the brand awareness bit was spot on about the ESPN and Barstool, because like you mentioned, these guys have incredible content that generate views. But if you think about the funnel, right, you acquire the top of the funnel flawlessly, but then your mid funnel is completely gone and never existed in US in that case. There is no affiliation. There's no like communities and engagement. So I really like what you just said. And I think this is the only way forward on how to build, a strong 360 engaged communities via the content and the sports media partnerships. I absolutely love it. So something you just mentioned, we actually touched my attention is the live betting feature, right? Because live betting, especially the delay of live betting, frustrate the users. I heard it's so much happening across US right now. How close are we to the true real-time integration?
It's a great question. I use YouTube TV, and everyone I know who's a big sports fan is using YouTube TV these days. And it's wonderful from a product perspective. You have multi-view, you have all these great things that are very conducive to being a sports fan, but also to sports betting, even though they haven't dipped their toe in it yet. But the big flaw is the delay. So you have the delay with sports betting, you have the delay with broadcast, and then you add another layer of delay with YouTube TV or any streaming option, and you're a good 45 seconds behind live. And so live TV, if you take out sports betting, live TV is often just as soon as you can get it. If I'm watching on my couch and I'm 45 seconds behind, I don't really know unless I'm, on social refreshing really fast. But when you add sports betting, you're absolutely right. The frustration of wanting to bet on something and it hasn't happened yet, but then you see the market's already off the board is frustrating. The good news is YouTube TV launched something, I think it was last year, where you can change to a lower latency mode, where you might see stuttering or the quality might get a little bit worse every once in a while, but you reduce some of the buffer, you get a little bit closer to live. Because I think everyone understands that we need to get closer. Back in the day at Are You Watching This, I could see balls and strikes on my servers before I could see it on live TV, because the internet is the internet. So we have a long way to go. We have a good 20 to 30 seconds to go, which really doesn't feel like much unless you're starting to talk about sports gambling. And when you have that wonderful experience that we all envision of that easy, let me place a dollar bet here, a dollar bet there in a super intuitive, super casual, super social way, we really need to close that gap. And I'm optimistic we'll get there. There's just too much money sitting on the table not to.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So let's say looking ahead 5 years, how will fans interact with sports betting during the broadcast like that?
If I could wave a magic wand, and if someone gave me control and no one ever wants to, I think we're going to have, I think a lot of the basics, we're going to have a social feed. We're going to understand what our friends are watching. But I think, to rewind a bit, we saw this a bit with Xbox back in the day with the Kinect. I thought that was the coolest product in the world. I remember the first time I played, I think it was Just Dance at a friend's wedding reception on the Xbox Kinect, and thought that camera was just mind-blowing. I think we're going to get to the point more where, as you look at things like reaction videos on YouTube, where being able to see the face of my friends as they're watching and I'm watching, there's something important about that. Sometimes I love watching videos of, let's say, a dunk or a big play, but I almost enjoy watching the fans' reaction to it sometimes, even more than the play after I've watched it a bunch of times. And so I think there's something beyond the personalization, the AI, the stuff that we always talk about, of bringing fellow fans into it and bringing that excitement that I'm seeing, or maybe getting to see the tears of the opponent when they're not doing well. I think that adds an extra layer of excitement to things that makes me want to watch more, which will inherently make me want to bet more. And so I think as we're coming out of COVID and sort of relearning how to be around others and relearning what a conference looks like or a convention or socializing looks like, I think that connection through and during our sports watching experience is, I'd say, that wild card of something that, if we could crack that nut, could open up all sorts of avenues that we haven't thought about yet.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think your insights on how to merge betting with broadcasting actually shows where the industry is heading. And thanks a lot for sharing your insights with us, Mark. It's been an absolutely incredible episode.
Always fun, my friend. Good to see you.